Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji. So we will start this most exciting session, session 20. The chapter is entitled Swami Invites the Hippies. So basically, we know willy-nilly, whether it was planned like that or not, the audience who really caught on are mainly the hippies to the movement initially. There were others we know. Prabhupada had lectured in so many universities in Butler, Pennsylvania. Then in New York also, he was in the uptown part. He was with Ramurthy Mishra. Subsequently, he had his own flat. But in all these places, uptown people, the well-off people, the middle-class people, they came, the old-age people, but they did not catch on. And eventually, it was the hippies who found Prabhupada's magnetism irresistible, and they practically surrendered to him. So we saw that in an earlier session we discussed. It is Krishna's plan also that Prabhupada should come to USA and to that part of the USA at the same time as all the hippies are coming. So Krishna must have arranged all the seekers and the Guru to come to the one place at the same time. We cannot also say that had I been a hippie, I would have become a Krishna devotee. Not like that also, because there were many times more number of hippies in these places than those who became devotees. So ultimately, it is the mercy of the Vaishnava which is the cause for one to become a devotee. In other words, bhakti is causeless. Bhakti is just like Krishna is independent, bhakti is independent. And Krishna has made the devotee, the pure devotee, also independent. So ultimately, whatever punya or papa that we might have done in the past, that doesn't become the cause of our getting bhakti. The only thing we must have done is sukriti, sufficient number of what you call bhakti unmukhi sukriti. Not all kinds of punya is sukriti. All kinds of punya is called sukriti. Bhakti unmukha sukriti alone will lead you to bhakti, which means you had either served a devotee or you had served the Lord unknowingly, or you were just standing on the street when the Rathayatra cart was passing and you stood up and took darshan. You accepted the prasadam from the hands of devotees. Maybe you said a few words, oh, it's so nice, I really like it. All these things add up to your Sukriti. This is nicely explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini. So we are now seeing this magic happening there in the United States between an old man of 71 years and the hippies who are in the age group of 15 to 25 more or less. So that is the magic which is happening, and now it sort of explodes. And that is what we are now into the midst of the whole thing exploding like a sprout which is growing, and it is growing fast. Even now, it is only a sprout. Eventually, it will be a massive tree which covers every continent of the world. So even now, the growth of ISKCON that we are seeing doesn't mean that it has already grown. No, it is just a sapling, just in the process of growing. We are in the initial stages of how ISKCON takes root in USA and across the globe eventually. So let us go into today's subject. John Campanella is a person we have already met in an earlier session where Mukunda and Janaki were getting married. And the sister of Janaki was the only person who attended from the bride's side. And Srila Prabhupada did not care whether she has a Krishna conscious background, what are her beliefs, etc. She came in high boots and typical jeans and all this kind of dress, but Prabhupada told her, sit down, sit down. And he made her sit on the floor in front of a huge plate and into which he dumped 5 kilos of, I don't know, whether milk powder or whatever. Then he asked her to make a medium soft dough for rasgulla. And she did not know what is medium soft dough. So Prabhupada said, in India, a 5-year girl knows, and you don't know. And Prabhupada taught her how to make. And he taught her what is the correct size, ideal size. Prabhupada made and showed her. This is the way you should do. And she said, just sat down, spreading out her legs because she's wearing a jeans, how she will sit. And she kept the plate in front and started making. And in the meantime, Prabhupada was making alone from the kitchen. He was making food for 40, 50 people. 15 different items Prabhupada is making while this lady was just making the dough and the balls ready for frying. And subsequently, Prabhupada gave her the task of also frying the kachoris. But in the meantime, she saw how Prabhupada was working. And also, she saw Prabhupada's standard of cleanliness. She had a different concept of cleanliness. She was what you call bio-fad. They have some terminology. People who want to eat their food in a very, very healthy condition, they will avoid any kind of contamination by hand. They will use only spoons and ladles and such instruments. They will never touch it by hand. Maybe they will, on top of that, they will wear gloves and caps and all those things. And what should be eaten, what should not be eaten. They have so many rules, no sugar, no salt, all these things. But Prabhupada was amazingly using his hands in making things, and she was encouraging her to use the hands. But then when Prabhupada saw that she was touching her hand to the forehead to wipe her sweat, or she was lighting a cigarette in the middle of her job, every time Prabhupada said, get up. First he told her, remove the shoes, wash her legs, wash her mouth and hands, and come and sit down. But again and again, Prabhupada sent her out. The moment he saw her lighting a cigarette, he said, get out and smoke and come back. But before coming back, wash your hands, legs, and mouth. And when she saw her touching her dress, touching her face, anything, every time Prabhupada said, then he told her, look, the standards of cleanliness in Krishna consciousness is different from what you have known. So Prabhupada is already giving her a clue. Later on, when Prabhupada was serving the prasadam also, this lady had a lot of reservations about eating it, even though she was very much attracted towards Prabhupada in terms of his compassion, in terms of his skills, in terms of his way of relating with people. And she was almost ready to surrender to him, but she didn't. And Prabhupada made her eat gulab jamuns and all that. She had a lot of resistance to that initially because her concept of healthy eating was different. But Prabhupada taught her to eat prasadam. But then she almost decided, no, I will never again eat it because this old man is requesting and I don't want to offend him. I'm eating, but never again I will eat this kind of prasadam. But eventually she became a recipe writer for ISKCON. She wrote amazing books in a very Krishna conscious way, and it won awards in the international competition in France. It was competing with many, many non-vegetarian cookbooks from very, very famous people all over the world. And hers was a purely vegetarian cooking, and it was written in a different style. Meaning she was blending Krishna consciousness in the way she wrote. She wrote that I am making this book for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, who's my spiritual master, and for the pleasure of all the devotees. Like she was weaving her emotions, her spiritual emotions into the book, and somehow it captured the people who read it. And of course, she wrote the book very, very meticulously. Even today, that book is a kind of a standard in cooking as far as ISKCON is concerned. So this is the lady now we are seeing. Her name is Joan Campanella. She is from Oregon, belongs to a very wealthy family. They are two sisters. One is Janaki and this is Joan. They had their own sports car and sailboats, each of these girls. And so you can imagine how wealthy they were. And after graduation, she shifted to San Francisco to run a business, which she had learned in college, ceramics and related activities. She had a business in partnership. And she was running that, and she had many friends because of running a business and by being a very sort of popular person in the city because she is having a business, she has customers and all these things. But she was remaining aloof internally. She was very introspective and seeking the truth. Actually, she was very much attracted to Prabhupada. But for some reason, she did not surrender and accept him as her guru, even though she saw her own sister and brother-in-law had surrendered to him. So she was taking her time. So this is Joan Campanella. She's in San Francisco. That's why she's being introduced now, because Prabhupada is now coming to San Francisco for opening the very second temple of ISKCON, opened by Srila Prabhupada. In the meantime, there is another temple developing in Toronto, in Canada. Prabhupada had not gone, but somehow a center has somehow developed there, and Kirtananda Swami is looking after that. So we will eventually go to Toronto, but right now Prabhupada is leaving from New York to San Francisco by flight from East Coast to the West Coast, a long flight. And this is the first flight, incidentally, for Srila Prabhupada. First flight of his whole life, and first flight after coming into Krishna consciousness for the purpose of spreading. His initial trip was by a ocean, not even an ocean liner. What do you call it? It was a cargo ship, a simple matchbox-like cargo ship. Prabhupada describes. It was traveling from India to Boston and New York. So this is the first flight Prabhupada is taking. So Prabhupada is accompanied by one young boy of 19 years old, Ranachoda. They had met him in the park, Tompkins Square Park, and he had somehow become a devotee, not a very, very serious devotee, but somehow he had a great desire to travel with Prabhupada. And they made an announcement in the temple. Look, nobody has money, hippies don't have money. So they said, anyone who can collect enough money and buy a ticket on themselves, they can go with Prabhupada. And this Ranachoda managed to collect. And so he had the great fortune of traveling with Prabhupada as his secretary. And he took his job very seriously, even though he was such a young 19-year boy. So they boarded the flight and they were sitting on the flight, and Prabhupada started immediately chanting. And the only word he spoke to Ranachoda was when the flight was airborne and it was going high. Prabhupada looked down through the window and he said, look, the skyscraper buildings are looking like matchboxes. There is a significance of what we have in this material world. And imagine from the point of view of Krishna, how insignificant is the life on this whole planet, which is like a spark of dust, speck of dust in the vision of Lord Krishna. And then till they reached, Prabhupada did not speak. Silently he was chanting his rounds. And eventually they reached. And before they reached San Francisco, what kind of preparations had been done? You'll remember Mukunda had written to Srila Prabhupada that we are finding a temple. And we have found a temple in the area called Haight-Ashbury. And in Haight-Ashbury was the second greatest meeting point of hippies from all over the United States. And it was by far the biggest. New York was early, but it did not grow as big as Haight-Ashbury did. In Haight-Ashbury, I read hundreds and thousands, or I don't know, hundreds of thousands. That many number of hippies, the whole young generation of USA, because the whole population was wealthy, you see. American middle class is not our Indian middle class. No, they are very wealthy people. And from those families, practically all the children had become somehow at the same time disillusioned with the way of life of their parents. And they had come together in Haight-Ashbury, and they had no enough food. They had no money. So they did not wash their dress. They did not wash themselves. They did not brush their teeth. They grew long hair and beards. They were only experimenting with drugs with whatever money they had, LSD and things like that, and they had very little food. They could not afford. Boys and girls, they were sleeping on the streets often, and they were chased by the police, and they would run to escape from them. Because if the police catch them, they will put them into concentration camps or de-addiction camps. De-addiction camps are something these people detested because they use very, very strong methods to get them off the drugs. But the success of these de-addiction camps were very, very poor. The boys and girls would leave after 2 months or 3 months of de-addiction, and promptly they will be picked up again for drug offenses. So that means they were really not de-addicted, which means again, the root of the problem is not what the government or the police department or the narcotics department thinks. The root of the problem is something else, which we know that the hippies were disgusted with the way their parents were living, disgusted with the way the society was being run, disgusted with the way the government was initiating unnecessary wars across the globe and forcing youngsters to join the army, and with very little training, they are sending to a war with which they don't identify themselves. They don't see the war as necessary at all. It is simply for the American president's whim to preserve his position that the war has been started. So they are all frustrated, angry people, and they see the whole thing hypocrisy. The whole way the society was running, they found it was hypocritical, and that is how these people have come together. But unfortunately, fortunately, they have rejected the materialistic way of life, including their own parents and relatives and the elders. That is the good part. They did realize that this is not the way to go. And they knew instinctively that there is a higher truth. And we want to know what is the higher truth. The seeking The hankering was there. But at the same time, the material attractions, they have not overcome yet. And the mind is only thinking higher truth should be free love, freedom, freedom to do what my mind wants, freedom to drink, freedom to experiment with drugs, freedom to relate with any boy or girl that I meet, freedom to experiment with music, freedom to protest against the society. They called themselves a counterculture. Counterculture. You have a culture, American culture, we don't like that culture. So our culture is counterculture. So the kind of music they make, the cultured music is one type, the counterculture music is violent, very loud, very noisy. It has no meaning. Just the aim is to register your protest by raising a huge noise. So this is the kind of music so the rock music and all those things they developed during this time. So all these people, we have to remember, they are from wealthy backgrounds. And even Prabhupada was surprised from such a affluent family background where they have nothing wanting in their lives. How did so many youngsters leave the family and come? Prabhupada will speak about it and say, this is proof that what all you people are chasing will not satisfy your heart. What will satisfy your heart is only Krishna consciousness. The true relationship with the Supreme Lord, when it is restored, that is when you will feel satisfaction in your heart. When Krishna Prema awakens, that is the real satisfaction of the heart. So, anyway, so Mukunda, I have to give you a little more background. Mukunda and Janaki, they left New York. The intention was to go to India and to learn Indian music. Mukunda being a musician. He told Prabhupada also. Prabhupada did not stop him, but Prabhupada said, better than that, why don't you open a temple in San Francisco and I can come? Because he was telling, I'm going via San Francisco. So Mukunda heard that. The idea went in, but he thought, Guruji, Swamiji has told me, I will see like that. On the way, as they were driving, on the way, they met another couple, Samuel he is actually, and Marjorie. These two people are again living together couple, and they are living on top of a mountain. Samuel is a highly educated boy. He studied in full scholarship in a very reputed university, and he was a MA in psychology, MA in philosophy. But then he found the world meaningless. He found his education meaningless. He found the way the people were living meaningless. So even though he could have landed a very wonderful job, but he moved out with his girlfriend from the city to a small place to live on top of a mountain, surrounded by trees and vegetation and no humanity anywhere. These two people were living there. And very young, these people also, I think 21, 22, like that. And their job was, it was a government job. The job was, they have to look out for forest fires. Because, the forest fires of America are very devastating. Both wealth and human lives are in great risk when these forest fires start. And as the season shifts from spring to summer, or maybe even spring, the fires, they begin to crop up. As Prabhupada says, forest fires are not caused by anybody. They happen automatically. Samsara dava nala. Our material life is also compared to a forest fire. Who set the fire? We don't know. We have come and we are now drowning in the samsara and life after life, birth after birth. We die, we get reborn, and we just don't know where we are going. So there is a fire burning all around us, and we are getting incinerated in that kind of a fire. That is our situation. So here their job is to detect the first fire. When they see smoke coming and they see there is a fire, they have to inform the concerned the government department, and then they can take the car and leave the place. That's all. Their job is over for that season. So Mukunda and Janaki went there and they spoke. Even before they spoke, Sam was surprised to see these people, how they had changed in a matter of a year or less than that. When they open their mouth, they are talking about Swamiji only. When they speak about Swamiji, their eyes are becoming so bright, and they are sitting together and chanting their beads. They are completely avoiding non-vegetarian food. They are not drinking. They are not touching drugs. Sam has a history with drugs. Of course, Mukunda also was earlier taking drugs. But now they are gone off, and they are living such a regulated life. They are sitting early in the morning, they are taking bath, they are chanting their rounds. So Mukunda, Sam was fascinated, and Marjorie also was. So they asked them, and Mukunda Janaki shared with them. And then they told that Swamiji told us to open a temple in San Francisco, but we have another plan also. We are going to India for some learning music sessions and all. Then Sam said, I will go with you to San Francisco and we will open the temple. Sam was never seen Prabhupada. Sam has seen Prabhupada only through his ears of hearing from Mukunda. So now you understand the power of Shravanam. What is the power of hearing? So just by hearing and by seeing their life, Sam, who was also a seeker all his life, who rejected a materialistic life to live on top of a mountain with his girlfriend, he was transformed. He said, I want to meet Swamiji. I want to take initiation from him. Let us now go to San Francisco. So Mukunda's mind changed. They all went to San Francisco. And they started looking out. And Sam was a very enterprising person. He knew many of the music bands and all those things. So it was Sam who gave the idea to Mukunda that let us have a mantra rock festival. It was called a mantra rock festival. Mantra is Hare Krishna mantra. Rock is the music that the counterculture people make. So they engage all these big, big bands from all over USA to come and play in that Avalon ballroom, which they engaged for this festival. Very big ballroom they engaged. And everyone agreed to play at a low fee because already Hare Krishnas were becoming popular. So all the music bands wanted to be there. And they all agreed for a small fee. And now, because Prabhupada has already told no free trips anymore, so they kept a ticket also. $2.50 for entry. And this was a mantra rock which they were preparing. On the other side, they found a storefront. Just like in New York, one storefront on the ground floor, they named it Sri Sri Radha Krishna Temple. And the neighboring building on the second floor, they found a residence for Prabhupada, very similar to what he was having in New York. But they decorated these places very nicely. And they put up the pictures, they put up curtains and screens all over the walls. And they made everything ready and for Prabhupada's coming. And now Prabhupada was landing. And before that, Mukunda did one thing. He collected hippies. He was already preaching to the hippies of Ashbury. And he was bringing them together and he was telling them about Prabhupada. And there were 50, 100 hippies who were very keen to see Prabhupada, ready to surrender their lives to him. And Mukunda took them all just before Swamiji was going to come. He took them all to a park and that's called Golden Gate Park. And he made them all chant. So they had kirtan for 1 hour and they chanted 8 rounds for 1 hour. Before going to the airport to receive Swamiji, all these hippies who have not seen Swamiji, they are chanting the Mahamantra. And Mukunda knew that nothing will please Swamiji more than hearing people chanting the Mahamantra, singing or doing japa of Mahamantra. Mukunda knew. Not only Mukunda knew, every single disciple and every single follower or everyone who has met Srila Prabhupada, they knew that what pleases Swamiji the most was to see people chanting the holy names. Whether there was a 2-page publicity in a reputed newspaper like New York Times, not important to Swamiji. A huge blow-up of his picture in the local newspapers in the center page, that is not what attracts Swamiji. But if he reads through the article and somewhere he finds Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Then Swamiji said, wonderful. This is a very good article. Even if it is a critical article, mind you. Because Prabhupada would say, anyone who reads this article will chant the Mahamantra. And how many people will be reading this newspaper? So how many people will chant the Mahamantra? So again, I get a feeling that we have been given the most precious diamond by one who knows the value of the diamond. But somehow we don't know its value. We are wondering, what is this Hare Krishna all the time chanting? Why should I chant 16 rounds? It is so boring, so tiresome. Why should I wake up early in the morning, sit with my beads, and why should I chant? So we don't know the value of this diamond. But somehow, those who saw Srila Prabhupada understood there is some magic in this mantra. And they did start chanting. Okay, now, Joan Campanella has a boyfriend. His name is Roger. Okay, we will see it in some other screen. And they are friends. And Roger is also a seeker. Uh, he he wants to be independent, but at the same time, he's seeking for the absolute truth. Somehow he's thinking, why should we obey the rules? Because you remember, this is a counter culture. Culture means the establishment. What is the accepted way of living in the USA? That's called establishment, the established culture. But these people are counter culture. That means they want to break the law of the land. They don't respect the law. The law says join the army and go and fight in Vietnam. So they have no faith in the law of the land. So whatever they do, they want to protest. So there was a unwritten law in among the hippies that anyone over 30 years is not to be trusted. Whatever they say, you do opposite. This was a kind of philosophy among the counterculture people. So Roger was such a person that he was thinking, why should I accept a guru and follow his instructions? Like that it was. Uh, anyway, but he was also curious and he was attracted by seeing Mukunda Janaki because Joan is Janaki's sister. So they would go and Roger would also join. So all these six people became very thick friends, even before Srila Prabhupada came. So at the airport, these people were there, and along with the 50 or 100 hippies, they were collected together at the tarmac at the airport before the flight was going to land, and they were standing crowded on the way. And the flight came, the flight landed, and the passengers are walking out. And these hippies were in all kinds of dress. Hippies dress in their own individualistic way. Nothing like the establishment is wearing, but they would wear something different. Maybe flowery dresses, maybe torn dresses, maybe fancy caps, maybe very colorful polka dot dresses the men will be wearing. Whatever, they would be wearing all kinds of dresses, different types. And they are standing there. But everyone is carrying some flowers and incense in their hands. Mukunda has told them, when Swamiji comes, you should receive him with something. And he has told them, these are the best things. You can bring flowers or incense. So they are all standing and eagerly looking at the airplane, people coming out from the door. So, of course, nowadays in our airports, it's not possible. But in those days, airports were like that. And particularly American airports were like city bus stands. They can go right up to the aircraft stand. So they were standing and the flight opened and they were walking out. Passengers were coming out and they were getting surprised to see this huge crowd of eager awaiting people. Who are they waiting for? But the hippies allowed them all to pass. And their eyes were glued on the door. And Ranachoda appeared and then Srila Prabhupada came. And Prabhupada was all smiles because Kirtan was going on. Even before Prabhupada came out of the aircraft, he had heard the Kirtan from inside. Prabhupada was so happy. These hippies, on top of their voice, they were chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Prabhupada, right from there, he waved his hands and he showed his hands, chant louder, chant louder. And in his flowing saffron robes and with his pointy white rubber shoes, Prabhupada was coming down with a suitcase in his hand, and he was just coming down the steps looking at all these boys and girls very lovingly. And as Prabhupada came, they opened out on both sides, and Prabhupada was allowed to pass through the middle. You know how Prabhupada walks? His chin is always up, his eyes are always looking almost at the sky. Even though he's much shorter than the rest of the crowd, obviously. Prabhupada is not a very tall man, but he was walking through the center and everybody very respectfully looking at him. And instantly, Janaki and Mukunda fell down on the ground and offered Dandavat obeisances. And as they did, all the other hippies also did. They all fell on the ground and offered Dandavat obeisances to Prabhupada. Prabhupada is very pleased to see this scene. And all the people crowding at the airport, the workers, the guests, the visitors, they were all shocked. What is happening? On the floor, people are falling down in front of this man. Even Hitler did not command that kind of respect. So everybody was watching, and Prabhupada happily walked through, and everyone handed over flowers and incense. Prabhupada was very mercifully receiving them, giving them pleasant glances. And as Prabhupada was moving through, there appeared Allen Ginsberg with a huge bouquet of flowers. And Prabhupada accepted and he gave a pleasant smile to him. And then Prabhupada started distributing whatever he had received. From this huge bouquet, he started receiving the flower stems to all those who had come. And then whatever incense and everything, Prabhupada was returning to them. So this loving exchange was happening. And eventually, Prabhupada reached the end of this crowd. He was going for his baggage check, whatever, to collect his baggages and all that, and to get his the formalities completed. Then Prabhupada showed a hand to chant more loudly. And Prabhupada started dancing, the typical Swami dance. And everybody started dancing like that. And the airport, people standing there, they were all, one sense, shocked. In another sense, overjoyed to see this display of love happening there in the airport between one old man and so many youngsters. Then Prabhupada eventually completed the formalities, and then they got into a car. They had arranged a very nice car, and Prabhupada got in the back seat, and he was sitting along with Mukunda, I think. Mukunda, Janaki were at the back, and in front, Roger was sitting in front. No, Mukunda was sitting in front, and two other boys were sitting in the back. And Prabhupada was recognizing whoever he has met before. And then Prabhupada was asking, "Where is Harvey Cohen?" You remember Harvey Cohen was the one who gave Prabhupada the loft in the first place in Bowery, and he was going to San Francisco. So Prabhupada knows he's here. So where is he? Then Mukunda said, "Prabhupada, he's only driving you." Prabhupada said, "Oh, I didn't recognize," because he was wearing that chauffeur's cap, somewhere he had hired it, Cohen, for driving Prabhupada. And he has also grown a huge beard. So Prabhupada didn't know. So Prabhupada was happy Cohen is here. And it was Cohen who painted the Radhakrishna temple, Sri Radhakrishna temple, in front of the temple also. And he did many other assistants to prepare the temple, some carpentry work, painting work, and all that he also done. So they arrived at the temple. Immediately there was Kirtan in the temple. Prabhupada had a small lecture, and many, many reporters had come to interview Prabhupada. And they asked Prabhupada about, do you have restrictions about the people who become members of your movement? Prabhupada, without hesitation, said the four regulative principles in great detail. Prabhupada explained. Anyone who wants to become a member of our society should follow these four principles. But then he said, as far as chanting of the Mahamantra is concerned, it is open to anyone and everyone. So they asked, do you also invite the acid heads? I understand in hippies there are so many groups, So they have different names. Basically, depending on what drug they are experimenting with, what are their philosophy with regard to free sex and all that. I don't know. So they were asking whether you will allow these people also to join your movement. Prabhupada said, it is open to everyone. But after they join us and they undergo our training, they will no longer be hippies and acid heads. Prabhupada said. They will become someone else. Prabhupada said. So the reporters eventually left, and Prabhupada spoke to the devotees assembled in the temple for some time. And so many people are seeing Prabhupada for the first time. Remember, very few people had seen Prabhupada before. So many people are seeing him for the first time, and no one was disappointed. They had heard about Prabhupada from Mukunda and Janaki, and they were not disappointed. They understood that Prabhupada is everything that they had heard about, and more than that. They saw how Prabhupada sees everything from the Krishna viewpoint. Everything Krishna's viewpoint. From the airplane, everything was looking so small. So what about from Krishna's viewpoint? How much insignificant we are, like that. So that night at 11 o'clock in the TV, there was a wide coverage of the temple, Prabhupada coming, the Kirtan, the boys and girls who had assembled. There was a very good, favorable coverage in the televisions, local televisions. And in the morning newspapers, there was again very wide coverage with photographs and all, everything. Prabhupada was so happy because Mahamantra was there everywhere, and they written very glorifyingly about Srila Prabhupada, even glorifyingly about how Prabhupada is giving an alternative to the drug culture. Actually, drug culture is something very dear to the hippies, and the whole society doesn't want to offend them. So everybody don't speak against that. The way they are living, the way of living, they don't protest, but except Prabhupada. Directly he said, drugs are not the way to God. Because if you recollect, these people, hippies, they were justifying drugs as a means of expanding the consciousness. And expanding consciousness is a typical terminology used by these hippies. And you expand, then you get a spiritual understanding. That's what they think. Expand the now consciousness is narrow, confined to our body, but we are not the body. We are God. So our consciousness has to expand so that we become God, and drugs will help you to do that. So they were justifying drugs as a spiritual process, and Prabhupada was the first one who said drugs are unnecessary for spirituality. So anyway, so Allen Ginsberg was quoted in the newspapers saying Prabhupada is a conservative leader. Now his name is not Prabhupada, Swamiji. Swamiji is a conservative leader. So when they read it to Prabhupada, Prabhupada objected. I am not a conservative leader. But the disciples told Prabhupada, because you are not allowing illicit sex and drugs and intoxication and all, they say conservative. Then Prabhupada said, yeah, that way it's okay. But ours is the most liberal movement because it is a movement of Mahaprabhu, who is Mahavadanya. Even Jagai Madai, he gave the highest Krishna Prema. And we are opening out to everybody. In India, the ladies will not even be allowed to get into this kind of movements, but I am allowing. Boys and girls, everyone can join. The hippies, we have no rules. You just join and you chant the Mahamantra. For chanting the mantra, we are not laying down any rules. In India, there will be so many rules to get initiated, to get Diksha. But I am not putting. So Prabhupada said, actually, this is the most liberal movement of Mahaprabhu. And my guru is also very liberal. And so it's not correct to say that we are not liberal. But the restrictive rules, what we have, is actually to make you free, to actually make you independent, free from the gunas that bind you, actually. So, and that night, you remember, Prabhupada had a long flight, and then he had continuously engagements. And night, I don't know, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, he went to bed. And everybody went to bed. Everybody was tired. But at 1 o'clock, Prabhupada wakes up without an alarm. His daily routine starts. Just as he was doing in New York, same routine. Not that today I am tired, today I will change my routine. Never did Prabhupada do that. All the time that he was doing his mission for the 12 years, he never did. Even if he's flying around the world, across the globe, he never suffered any jet lag. He would adjust his watch to the local time, and life will become automatically like that. If 1 a.m. New York he's translating, in San Francisco 1 a.m. he's translating. That's how it is. So Prabhupada had already completed Bhagavad Gita translation. You will recollect, Prabhupada had once done a complete translation and purports of Bhagavad Gita. And when he was trying to get it printed from Karaikudi, Alagappa Chettiar, it was stolen. When Prabhupada came to Calcutta to take it out, his manuscripts, he found it is gone. And he could never discover who stole it. So second time, in this 1.5 years of hectic living in New York, Prabhupada has already done one more translation of Bhagavad Gita. All the manuscripts are with him. And now he has also started Chaitanya Charitamrita, and simultaneously he is doing teachings of Lord Chaitanya as a big volume. So Prabhupada is now using a dictaphone. He is no longer having to type or handwrite. Someone has given him a dictaphone and he is dictating into the phone. This has speeded up his work. And devotees will take the dictaphone and they will type it. So this is happening. So Prabhupada starts at 1 a.m. The light in his room only burning. The rest of the building is quiet. And by the way, where Prabhupada is staying, you remember he's staying in a second floor apartment. In the same building, the other end of the corridor, Mukunda is staying with his wife, Mukunda and Janaki. So there is a temple, and by the side of the temple, there is an apartment block. In that block, on the same floor, one end Prabhupada is there, other end Mukunda Janaki are there. So Prabhupada is continuing his translation work just in the same way. New York, he's keeping a trunk in front, covered with a cloth. On that, he's keeping his books, and the translated manuscripts, already written manuscripts, are by his side. And in a small cushion, he is sitting and he's translating. This is what's going on. Then at dawn, he stops work and then he goes for his other duties like brushing, bathing, and everything else. Just imagine 1 o'clock in that cold weather, just covering his whole body, sitting and translating. Can anyone be so fresh? like that at that time. So anyway, so now the Mantra Rock Festival has to happen. Now, so many objections are coming from New York Temple. The devotees are saying, why you are exposing Swamiji to such a unholy place where people will be completely drugged and there will be no restrictions. Men and women will be in all state of undress and they'll be dancing in very unseeming way. Why? And the place will be filled with smoke and sweat of people. Why do you want? But Swamiji was very interested to go and go and talk to these people and give them the Mahamantra. So this Mantra Rock Festival was titled as Krishna Consciousness Comes West. That was the title. And $2.50 ticket. And the day of the festival, there was a long, long queue to get in. Everyone was carrying the tickets and the devotees were checking and allowing them in. Suddenly one young boy came and he was not having a ticket and there was an argument at the gate. Then another devotee came, Sam, and he said, allow him in. He is the inventor of LSD. That one drug which is famous among the hippies, he is the inventor of the drug. So he has also come to Prabhupada's lecture and Mantra Festival. So Prabhupada arrived at 10 o'clock. Allen Ginsberg also came. Prabhupada walked in, devotees were playing the conch, and the place was jam-packed, and the crowd stood up and made way for Prabhupada to walk through. And typically, Prabhupada walked through the center with his chin up and looking around the boys and girls, and he just moved to the stage. And he sat on the stage, and Srila Prabhupada gave a small speech about the Mahamantra, and he told Ginsberg to sing the Mahamantra. So Ginsberg with the harmonium, he sat by the side of Srila Prabhupada and he was playing. There was jam-packed crowd. They were all, every one of them were drugged. They were smoking. They were half conscious or three-fourth conscious, whatever they were, boys and girls talking among themselves. All this was going on. But in that situation, Prabhupada is sitting there at Ginsberg. And one more thing was psychedelic sounds and psychedelic lights. So this was a very special auditorium and two very special people had been called. They are belong to the hippie culture only. So they will make some oil slicks, meaning lights will float across the room. You know, all around the room, huge light circles will move, and within the lights you can see pictures also. So like that, there'll be moving lights, you know, it creates a very psychedelic atmosphere and the kind of music. This was going on. When Prabhupada came also, all these lights all were moving. And Ginsberg was playing. And then everybody joined in the Kirtan. Everybody in the audience joined in the Kirtan. So later on, Ginsberg recollected, it was the first time in American music history that the audience participated in the orchestra. You know? Otherwise, usually the band will be playing from the stage and the audience will be just watching. But first time there was singing and there was singing on the audience side also. And everyone participated and everyone became ecstatic. And more than an hour, the Kirtan went on. And then Prabhupada stood up and Prabhupada started dancing on the stage. And there was a roar from the crowd and everyone stood up and they all started dancing. The Swami steps, you know, swaying left and right. And Sam recollected, because he was also on the stage, he was watching. He says it was like a ripened paddy field where in a breeze, the paddy will sway left and right. The whole crowd was swaying. Notwithstanding the intoxicated stage they were in, they were experiencing a higher intoxication from the Mahamantra. So Prabhupada stayed there, and then eventually, after the mantra part was over, Prabhupada left. All the musicians, everybody joined, everybody came on the stage, and together they were all making this amazing music of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then Prabhupada went back to the temple, and the rock festival continued. And it got a very, very big publicity the following day. Prabhupada, of course, said, this is not a place for brahmacharis, because Prabhupada is training many brahmacharis. Prabhupada said, this is not a place that a brahmachari should frequent. Ranachod was there with him. So, next morning, the temple, Sri Radhakrishna temple was very crowded with hippies. And most of the hippies have been there in the Mantra Rock festival all night. And today morning, 6:30, they have come to ISKCON temple. They had practically not slept. So how much is the power of Prabhupada? They all came to see. And Prabhupada was asking everyone, how much money you made? See, Prabhupada, head in the sky, but feet very firmly on the ground. This money was supposed to be made for the temple purpose. How much money was made? People were saying this and that and all that. So they said eventually Sam is the one handling all these things and all. So they told Sam to meet Prabhupada. Sam was very eager to meet Prabhupada, but he was very shy and reserved because he thought he had no qualification. He had been given to smoking and all kinds of bad habits. But now seeing Prabhupada and now seeing Mukunda Janaki, he felt very, unqualified. But then he came in front of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked him, what do you think about God? He said, God is one. Then Prabhupada asked, who are you? And he said, now, what is the goal of your life? And Sam said, to become one with God. Prabhupada said, no, we can never become one with God. God is God, and we are a spirit soul. We are his part and parcel. But our aim is not to become one with him. We are eternally his servants. Sam was very happy to hear this explanation from Srila Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada asked, how much money you made? He said, $1,500. Prabhupada immediately said, you are the treasurer of this temple from now on. That's how Sam became the treasurer. And in San Francisco, the kind of visitors who came to the temple, they came mostly in couples. Unlike in New York, there were not many couples there. But here, most of them are coming in couples. There was no question of Prabhupada saying whether women can join or not, because men and women are coming together. So Prabhupada told every one of them that it is a grihastha way of life that is only acceptable. You cannot live together. You cannot break the law of chastity. You have to be loyal. Husband and wife, they should marry and they should serve each other for the whole life. And Prabhupada taught them this. And he said, I can give you initiation, but the rule is that you cannot live, you cannot follow this practice of living together outside marriage. So whenever he gave initiation, he took a promise from them, yes, we will get married. So like that, Prabhupada performed many marriages. This is the first time a sannyasi performed marriages in the history of the world. Prabhupada was very certain that he's doing the right thing, even though no precedents are there. In India, there are priests, there are so many people, the Vedic Pandits and all that. There are the Smarta Brahmanas who perform marriages. But where are they for Prabhupada? And Prabhupada doesn't want them to continue this kind of decadent culture. They should get married. So Prabhupada took the job of getting them married with a fire sacrifice. So every other day there'll be initiation, every other day there'll be marriage ceremony. So the temple, while Prabhupada was there, was very busy and crowded. People would come for the marriage, people would come for the initiation, and there'll be feast all the time. So the temple was becoming very popular. And one time, Joan was sitting with Srila Prabhupada, and she said, Prabhupada asked her, what do you want to do? She said, I want to visit Tibet, which is the top of the world, and I want to learn Tibetan culture and Buddhist philosophy. Prabhupada said, I can take you to an even higher place than that. And she believed Prabhupada. Now, I told you already how Joan has been mesmerized by Srila Prabhupada from day one, even though she was not quite ready for making the plunge, taking initiation. But now she decided, I will take initiation from Swamiji. So now a short list of names here. Harvey Cohen, we know from New York, he has come here. Mukunda and Janaki, they have traveled from New York to here. And Joan Campanella and Roger Siegel, that's his name. And they have become now Yamuna and Gurudas. Prabhupada got them married. At the time of a marriage of Yamuna, they had arranged for the kunda for performing the fire sacrifice. But instead of ghee, they kept margarine. I don't know whether margarine is actually combustible. I doubt whether it burns at all. But they thought we will make it ghee was very expensive, so they kept margarine. So Prabhupada dipped his wood into that and he tried to set fire and put, then it will go off. Prabhupada did 2-3 times. Then he said, this marriage will have a slow start. And Yamuna started crying. And this their marriage eventually it got celebrated and they became husband and wife. And Sam Spearstraw, Samuel Spearstraw and Marjorie, they became Shamsundar and Malati. These names are big names in ISKCON. You will read their names again and again, how they contributed to the growth of this movement. Just imagine, these are all hippies. They had no culture, they had no value systems. They did not know about God. They did not know about the Vedic way of life. They had nothing. And they were so very young people. And how amazingly Prabhupada has transformed their lives. So much so that they were ready to surrender their lives. We will see in future sessions. So Shamsundar Malati. And then these are other couples who eventually came. Barney McDonald was from a very wealthy family, well-educated girl. Gary McElroy also was wealthy. This girl was only 19 years or something old, and this boy was 21 years old. And they were also seeking from good families. They had come to San Francisco. When they saw the hippies, they did not like. They thought this is not the kind of life that we want. But they are also seekers. So they both had taken some job. They were working, but they were seeking. But they had experimented with the LSD and they were disappointed. In this situation only, Bonnie saw one advertisement about Swamiji describing what he's doing, how he looks and all. It had been written by Hayagriva. She saw it in one shop and she came to know that he's right there in San Francisco. They visited the temple. 2-3 visits, they became friends with Yamuna, Gurudas, Shamsundar, Malati, Mukunda, Janaki, and they decided to take initiation. So they went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, we want to get married. Prabhupada said, it is not that marriage. It is, first you have to take initiation, then I will get you married. Then it's okay, then we take initiation. So within 2 weeks, after they met Prabhupada, within 2 weeks, they got married. They got initiated. 2 weeks later, they got married. Govinda Dasi and Gaur Sundar. Nicely, these stories are explained individually, but because of paucity of time, I'm not going into greater detail. Similarly, Michael Wright and Nancy Grindle, they were also very young people. They were seekers, again, very highly educated people. They knew some philosophy also, but they were also experimenting with LSD and disappointed. Eventually, they came to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, gave them initiation and got them married. On the day of Nandarani's marriage, Prabhupada said, you come early in the morning. As the bride, you have some work to do. So Prabhupada took her to the kitchen. And she came in a big, jeans and a t-shirt or whatever. Prabhupada told her, now you have to boil milk in this vessel. Prabhupada gave her a vessel. Now you wash this vessel and bring. So when she saw the vessel, at the bottom, it was completely black. I don't know. She says, I don't know for how long it was like that. So she took it to the kitchen. She washed it nicely and brought it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada looked at it and said, nice, but remove the black. So she went back to the kitchen and, she was not even appropriately dressed for doing this kind of job. She went scratch the bottom. And after a long time, half the black had gone. She took it back to Swamiji. Is it all right? Swamiji said, very good, but remove the remaining black ones. She took it back, again, scrub. Imagine, these are new, raw people. They have never done this kind of work before. And Srila Prabhupada has such a command over them. Command of love. They say you cannot demand love. You can only command love. Command means people should willingly give it like that. So here, look at the mindset of these people. They are willing to surrender to Prabhupada. So that's how it happened. Then subsequently for the marriage ceremony, then Prabhupada made her do a few items. He taught her in the kitchen how to make some items. And then eventually the time for marriage came. She was dressed up in a sari by Janaki and other ladies. And eventually their marriage was performed. And Nandarani was Nandarani was the painter, or Govinda Dasi. Govinda Dasi was a painter. Prabhupada came to know. And he said, you do drawing. You remember, Jadurani is doing painting in New York. And Govinda Dasi started doing painting in San Francisco for Srila Prabhupada. And they took all the 3 books of Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. And Gaurasundar would read, Govinda Dasi would listen, and they would do the painting. For 2 months, they finished the whole Bhagavatam while also painting for Prabhupada. And Dayananda and Nandarani also became very active supporters to Srila Prabhupada. Nandarani became expert in cooking, and she was actually very brilliant, and she was also proud. So one day Srila Prabhupada brought something to her and asked her Taste it and tell me what are the ingredients. She could not guess. Prabhupada said, what is this? You don't even know what the contents are. And Prabhupada started laughing. You don't know this much? Laugh, laugh, laugh. And she became very hurt. And Prabhupada called others and he told, you taste it and say, you taste it. And then Janaki told clearly, this is milk powder, some sugar and some butter or something like that. But see, she could, and you don't even know this. Prabhupada made so much fun of her and everybody was laughing. And eventually Nandarani realized that spiritual master does not tolerate pride. And it is his kindness that he goes out of the way to destroy this pride, because he can never be happy as long as you have ego, false ego and pride. Okay, another couple was Subala and Krishna Devi. Each of them has a story to tell, but we'll move on. So Roger Siegel, I have already told you about John's boyfriend, Yamuna's boyfriend. He was active, he was interested in Hatha Yoga also. He was interested in rebirth, but he was not serious about initiation. One day he was sitting in his room and thinking, everything is an illusion only. So the room in which I am sitting also should be illusion. Let me see if I can walk through the wall, because it's an illusion. I should be able to walk through. And he banged his head against the wall. Then next day he went and asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is it not everything an illusion? Prabhupada said, yes, from the God's point of view. But whatever God wills to happen, it is reality. God is supreme, absolute truth. So anything that comes out from God is also absolute truth. So the material world is temporary, but it is not unreal. So far, as human beings, we should appreciate this material world as real, but we should know that it is temporary and spirit soul is permanent. And our place is not here. Our place is to go back home, back to Godhead. So Roger was convinced and he took initiation subsequently from Srila Prabhupada. Sam Spearstra also, I told you, the husband of Malati Mataji, he helped a lot in building this temple, and the Mantra Rock festival was his brainchild. And Mukunda was developing. Mukunda's relationship with Srila Prabhupada was very interesting. Each of them had a different way of relating with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, just as Krishna, we have different rasas with Krishna, right? Like Mother Yashoda, she is so Srila Prakriti, in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it says Srila Prakriti means she's so simple-hearted. As a mother, she will see Krishna only as a child. Even though when he's grown up and he's having Raslila pastimes, all the girls in Vraja, she doesn't know. And the girls will be laughing, smiling, while in the early morning, Yashoda comes to wake up Krishna. Krishna is lying, sleeping. Maybe he's not sleeping, but he appears to be sleeping on his couch. And Yashoda is sitting and watching. There are scratch marks on his body. And she's mumbling to herself, oh, see, while grazing the cows, he must have been scratched by these thorns. He must be more careful. And the kumkum powder is all over his body and on his dress. So she's thinking, oh, the red soil, which is there on some other places in Braja, it is so fast and it doesn't go away even if you wash. And she's trying to remove it. And while speaking like that, and there are bite marks on his body. And for that, she's giving she's not at all realizing. And the girls are watching this and they're trying to control their laughter. So this is Krishna exchanging rasa simultaneously with different devotees in the respective rasa. Only Krishna can do it. Unlimited number of devotees, unlimited ways of reciprocation. Same thing you see with Prabhupada. So, honestly speaking, if we can relate with Prabhupada with that affection, or if we can relate with our spiritual master who is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada with that affection, Krishna will be pleased with us. So our aim is to please Krishna. And when we have a relationship with our spiritual master in that mood, Krishna becomes automatically pleased. How did these devotees make such rapid progress? It is all because of their love with Srila Prabhupada. So Mukunda was a friend to Prabhupada, but he was not serious. But he was interested to bring many people to Srila Prabhupada. So this is his mood. And one day, one proper Mridanga from India came, clay Mridanga. And Prabhupada played it so beautifully. Everybody was so impressed with Prabhupada's playing. And Prabhupada wanted to train one person. Mukunda immediately volunteered. Class started immediately. So he came to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada started teaching simple beats. Prabhupada said, Gi ta ta, Gi ta ta, Gi ta ta. So one side Gi, other side ta ta, like that. And Prabhupada played a few beats and then he gave it to Mukunda, you play. And Prabhupada sitting seriously watching, Mukunda playing. And Prabhupada said, the sound should, exact sound should come from the Mridanga also when you play. It should say Ki ta ta. So concentrate on that and you play. Mukunda played for some time. Then he slowly started speeding it up. Mukunda is already a musician. Prabhupada said, no. Same beat, same speed, so same gap. Continue. So he continued playing for a long time with eyes closed. Mukunda was playing. After a long time, Mukunda opened his eyes and he realized that Swamiji was standing by his side. Swamiji had not left to do other work. Swamiji was with him all the time, standing. Again, Mukunda closed his eyes, continued to play, continued to play, continued to play. Then after some time, he again opened his eyes. Swamiji was there. Mukunda slowly lifted his eyes to see what Swamiji is doing. Swamiji's eyes were closed and he was shaking his head along with the beats, totally absorbed in listening to his disciple learning. Then he came to know another dimension of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada has unlimited dimensions and we will never know all of them. Just give me a minute, Mataji. My servant maid is going. Just go and come. Just 1 second.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. As far as Janaki was concerned, Mukunda's wife, she also very direct dealing with Srila Prabhupada, not as a guru, sometimes like a mother chiding him, telling him about how he should take better care of himself, or as a daughter playing mischief with him. So she had such a very intimate relationship. She loved him like a daughter or even a granddaughter. She would ask him all kinds of questions and she would serve him very nicely. And she learned cooking from him. And she was intensely affectionate, but not very philosophical. She had many light moments with Srila Prabhupada. She would ask, do you have children, Prabhupada, back home in India? Her question was that, do you have children? Because Prabhupada's life was, they knew Prabhupada was a grihastha earlier. So she asked, Prabhupada said, are you not my child? And it was so straight and so much from the heart. She realized, yes, we are all his children. Then Prabhupada looked at everyone and said, are they all not my children? So that was the relationship they had, father-child or grandfather-grandchild. So such was the intimate pastimes they had. And once Janaki told about a dream, Janaki said, Prabhupada, I had a dream. If all of us had gone to another planet from here, and in that planet, we were all chanting Hare Krishna, and you were occupying a chair which was high from the ground, and you were sitting there, and we were all sitting around you and chanting. And people from all over the world, they all came, and everyone was chanting. Prabhupada said, that was a very nice dream. And okay, eventually, John Roger, one day initiated, next day married. And Bonnie, Gary also, they came 2 weeks for the marriage and another 2 weeks for for the initiation, next 2 weeks for the marriage. The parents came. Bonnie's father said, why you have to change the name? Prabhupada said, do you love your daughter? He said, yes, I love my daughter. And then Prabhupada said, if you love her, whatever she loves, you should love also. She loves to have a new name. So his father, he was a very gentleman. Father did not protest. And he enjoyed the feast and everything. They all realized that Prabhupada is a very genuine leader. Even though he was very different from whatever they had seen, these people were all Christians, but they readily accepted the philosophy that Prabhupada was giving. So about Govinda Dasi, I have told, they were reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And some doubts some of the devotees had about Prabhupada choosing people for initiation. They said, some of them are not even serious, Prabhupada. Why are you giving them initiation? They may fall down. They break the regulative principles also. Prabhupada said, I have to take the risk. I have to take the risk. In the future, what will happen, I don't know. But I have to take the risk. Because if someone is ready and I don't give him, that's not good. So Prabhupada was giving very liberally. For example, one day, the lecture was going on, After the lecture, one person was having a huge beard. He raised his hand. They had never seen him before. He said, "Can I be initiated?" Prabhupada asked, "Who is God?" He answered, "Krishna is God." "And who are you?" "I am servant of Krishna." Prabhupada said, "Tomorrow I'll give you initiation." That's all. So Michael Nancy has told, Steve and Caroline became Subala and Krishna Devi. Steve had a long hair. He was very much attached to it. He did not want to give it up. Prabhupada said, "At least you shave your beard." And he agreed, and Prabhupada gave them initiation. Eventually, Prabhupada told him to cut his hair at the back also, and Steve obliged.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Oh my God. How long have I been speaking?
Only now it got muted, Prabhuji. Just now, this screen only got muted. Till before it.
Okay, thank you so much. So Srila Prabhupada's spiritual family is growing, and it is very unlike New York. In New York, relationship is more like guru-disciple with a lot of respect and maryada, the superior subordinate. But here it is like a harmonious, small, loving family atmosphere. Dealings were very intimate. They would be cooking together in the kitchen. They would be eating together in the hall. Prabhupada will be all the time available to them. They are learning music from him. They are learning cooking from him. All like this. So it was not like an institutionalized setup. Even though ISKCON had been registered, and this is a regular ISKCON temple, but the mood was not of an institutional mood. And even today, this is what we should aspire for. The rules are always there, but the relationship should always be intimate and loving and caring. Because this is a spiritual family. This is what a replica of the spiritual world. So this is the way the devotees of ISKCON should have a relationship with one another. So some of them were friends with Prabhupada. For some of them, Prabhupada was a naughty son, or some of them, he was like a grandfather. He was a teacher. He was an enforcer of rule. So many things to so many people. But for everyone, he was the unfathomable, pure devotee of Krishna. Unfathomable, pure devotee of Krishna. On this, there was no debate at all. Everyone saw how when Prabhupada sits down for chanting, Kirtan, how he gets so much absorbed. Vandeham Sri Guru, he's praying to the parampara. He becomes so much absorbed. His voice, the nuances of his voice, the way he sings, they would be listening very, very closely. Then they would realize, even though he's like one of us, he's not one of us. He's from a different plane. He's from a different place. And he's very kindly, he has agreed to come and live with us. So that respect was always there. Same with Krishna also. We have relationship with all kinds of rasas, but ultimately the dominating rasa with Krishna is dasya. Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. But the dasya is there in Sakya also. And in Vatsalya, Sakya, Dasya, both are included. And in Madhurya, all three, Sakya, Dasya, Vatsalya, all are included in Madhurya. So that means Dasya is the all-pervasive rasa in every relationship. It is true with Prabhupada and it is true with Lord Sri Krishna. So Kirtan is happening in the temple in San Francisco, very different from New York. New York, they'll be more respectful. And here, free, abandon, everybody will dance. Prabhupada will not object. Prabhupada is only keen that everybody is chanting the Mahamantra. Other than that, Prabhupada did not enforce rules. He said, let them dance. As long as the dominating sound should be the Kirtan only. That was very important. They cannot sing whatever they want. They cannot play whatever they want. It should be the Mahamantra only. But free play for the way, however they dance. They would dance very sensuously sometimes. Prabhupada would tolerate that. So Prabhupada did not mind. Kena kena prakarena. Somehow or the other, bring them around to chanting the Mahamantra. That was the mood of Prabhupada. So the temple's Kirtan was becoming very, very popular. And then devotees started something. Again, Prabhupada only told them, you start cooking and distributing free lunch. When Prabhupada saw many of the hippies were starving, nobody was there to attend to them. Nobody was there. And they were running away from the police. They were running away from the government authorities. And they had no food. So Prabhupada said, you start free lunch prasadam. So morning, some kind of khichdi will be distributed. Afternoon, elaborate meals will be prepared. Where was the money coming from? Malati would go and beg from shopkeepers and from other uh, uh, wealthy people, and they would give because they knew that this temple is helping hippies to survive. Without any money, they are feeding them. They knew that. So charity would come. So Malati would go daily beg, and she would buy everything, and they would cook in the kitchen, and they would serve. Sometimes even 200, 300 people the temple was feeding. Imagine. No support from anybody on their own initiative. So some of the disciples of Prabhupada, Harsharani and Haridas, they say it saved many lives. Not only the spiritual life, material lives. Some of them are on the verge of death, or some of them are on the verge of madness. They were saved. Some of them eventually became devotees, not all. Some of them came and left. They were only taking sustenance, food from here. But definitely, the prasadam will give them sukriti also, bhakti sukriti. Many unusual incidents happened. Srila Prabhupada was a witness to everything, and he actively participated in dealing with all these situations. Local authorities were happy with Prabhupada, what he was doing. Civic leaders were invited, and they were happy. Everyone appreciated, but no help was coming. No help was coming. Even though they saw Prabhupada was very successful in de-addicting people. The whole government, their narcotics bureau, and so many other public welfare department, they were trying. They could not de-addict. Prabhupada was just like the de-addicting. Within days, people are going off the drugs. But still, they were not willing to take lessons from Prabhupada. So sometimes even the doctors and the police saw Swamiji as the only refuge. With those people whom they could not handle, they will dump them in the temple and go away. Mm-hmm. So what Prabhupada was doing has no precedence. It has never happened before. He did not learn all this from his spiritual master, but the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is so broad, so wide, so all-encompassing that one should know how to implement it in a practical situation. That's what Prabhupada is demonstrating. Prabhupada is not deviating from the philosophy, but at the same time, on a practical level, at the ground level, Prabhupada knows how to deal with problems in a Krishna conscious way. Any other solution is only a patchwork. Krishna consciousness is the only solution. Make them chant, make them eat prasadam, make them become Krishna conscious. These are the things that you do. Ignorance has to go, otherwise there is no solution. And here is a list of extraordinary cases that Prabhupada encountered. I will not go into all this. One time, Prabhupada was asked, are you Allen Ginsberg's guru? Allen Ginsberg is a very famous man among the hippies, and he's regularly seen with Prabhupada. So they are asking this question, loaded question. Prabhupada's instant answer is, Prabhupada looking at the floor, and he says, I am no one's guru. I am everyone's servant. Spontaneous. It's not contrived. Spontaneously, Prabhupada says. There was another person came with his wife to Prabhupada. Prabhupada is telling him, please chant, all your problems will go away. He continues to ask, what about my mind? What about my mind? Prabhupada puts up his hand to him. My dear sir, I have no other solution. Hare Krishna Mahamantra, please chant. That is the only solution. Very humbly, I request you, please take the Mahamantra. And one time, one girl came. Prabhupada is translating in his room at 1 o'clock in the morning. So one time there was a knock on his door. Nobody was there. There's a knock on the door persistently. So Prabhupada went and opened the door. He saw one girl in mini skirt. She just walked into, she passed Prabhupada, went into the room. Prabhupada said, what do you want? She was mumbling something. She was completely in intoxication, drugged, LSD. And she's not responding properly. Prabhupada said, if you have any questions, you come tomorrow. She's looking at Prabhupada with very wide eyes, and she's coming closer and closer. So Prabhupada got up from his work. He went out of the room. And this girl also followed. And she closed the door behind her, and it has an automatic lock. So now Prabhupada is also locked out with this girl on the corridor. And Prabhupada walked all the way to Mukunda's flat. He woke him up, and Mukunda eventually came. Very compassionately, Prabhupada said, please take care of this girl. She has come into my room and she has created a disturbance. Please take care of her. Very compassionately. Prabhupada was not angry at all. So eventually, they found a duplicate key with another devotee, and they opened the door, and Prabhupada continued his work. And this girl, next day morning, she attended the kirtan, and this time she was more sober, and she was sorry for what she has done. So basically, unprecedented problems were coming, and Prabhupada was dealing with them very nicely. There was one fat girl who came in Prabhupada's kirtan, and she was sitting on the ledge, and she was shouting at Srila Prabhupada, "Who are you? Why you are sitting there? What you are doing?" Like that she was shouting. And Prabhupada was mumbling, "This is the darkest of darkness. What a pity. This is Tamogun, extreme." The devotees were sitting next to Prabhupada. They could hear what Prabhupada was speaking to himself, that this is the darkest of darkness. There was another person who came and said, "I am God." Many people would come and say, "I am God." Prabhupada would patiently argue with them, defeat them, convince them that you are not God. He would convince that person, he would also convince the audience who are listening. Prabhupada will be handling this alone, and the audience will be simply sitting and watching. And they all became impressed how Swamiji handles everything with compassion, at the same time with superior wisdom. So all these amazing incidents were all happening in San Francisco. Morning walks, Prabhupada started going on morning walks with his disciples. First time, only a few disciples went, but when they saw how Prabhupada is different when they go on morning walk, Prabhupada is talking about so many things. He's teaching so many morals from what they see around them. So, subsequent day onwards, more and more people started joining. So, he would say, for example, "What a beautiful scenery," somebody will say. Prabhupada would say, "Scenery is so beautiful. What about the person who made the scenery? You should remember him. Krishna is much more beautiful than whatever you see here." Someone would say, "The ocean looks eternal." Prabhupada would say, "Nothing in this material world is eternal. Everything is temporary." So Prabhupada would say, some people want to see God, but to see God, you need to purify your eyes. That's all. God is everywhere. But if you have to see, you need the qualification. That means you have to purify. Sun is not covered by the clouds. Only our eyes are covered by the clouds. And even the cloud, the source is the sun only. The cloud, the fog, everything comes from the sun only. But it is never covering the sun. If you take a flight and go, you will see sun is shining. It is only covering your eyes. So basically, ignorance only covers us, it doesn't cover Krishna. Like the Prabhupada would tell so many things. And then they were walking through the park and he saw the hippie hill. Prabhupada said, "You should do regular kirtans here." And whatever they saw, swans, pebbles, flowers, ducks, bird droppings, from everything, Prabhupada would give them lessons. When Prabhupada saw the old men coming to the park and simply lazing around, playing cards or drinking beer or simply doing nothing, Prabhupada said, "Just see, old people in your country do not know what to do. They play like children, wasting their last days, which is meant for Krishna consciousness. Instead of serving God, they are serving the dog. It is most unfortunate, but they will not listen. Their ways are set. Therefore, we are speaking to the youth who are searching for God." So Prabhupada, when he saw the old men, he was very sorry. But Prabhupada also realized that too late for them to change. And they are only behaving like children. Just like whatever, that is why, when the old songs, they call them golden oldies, because they want to revive the childhood memories. As a teenager, what they were doing, as a boy and girl, what they were doing, they want to live that world. They want to go back to that world. So they will listen to that music, see the period movies and the songs they will hear, wasting their life completely without knowing after death, we have to re-enter into another body. And that body depends on what kind of consciousness I cultivate in this lifetime. But unfortunately, they are beyond redemption unless they somehow are fortunate to be touched by a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada.